Hello, everybody. It's a great morning on Friday, right before Independence Day. I'm going to spend the weekend at the Lake of the Ozarks, at least a couple of days. And hello, everybody is reminiscent of that was the sign-on for Harry Carey, who announced for the Cardinals and the Cubs. So I couldn't wait when I was a kid to hear Harry Carey say, "Hello, everybody." Today we're talking about glutathione. You may or may not have heard of glutathione. It's a tripeptide. It's made of 3 amino acids. I'm going to tell you why it's the master antioxidant, and it's magical. It really is magical. Hey, Dana. And I'm actually paraphrasing an article by a guy named Bogdan Popa. I hope it didn't destroy his name. He is an anesthesiologist that runs an IV therapy clinic in California. And he wrote a very nice scientifically based article on glutathione that I'm going to rely on quite a bit. Hi, Eileen. Because he summarizes it very nicely. And then I'm going to tell you a couple of different ways that you can improve and get your glutathione levels in a really good level. In other words, and the worst way to do it is by mouth. You know me and my shots. And then there's a way to measure your glutathione level as well. And I will put that up after I get done. It's not a cheat test, but when I tell you what glutathione does, once you're done hearing this, you're going to want to know what your glutathione level is, and I will bet you that if you asked your doctor to run it, they wouldn't do it. So you have to do it yourself. Okay, so what is glutathione? Okay, so I tell you all these things. I mean, if you did all the supplements that I talk about, it would cost you some money, but you would feel amazing. And I'm not recommending any supplements to cure anything or to treat anything, but the depletion of most of the vitamins and amino acids and peptides that I talk about are rampant in people who have chronic illness. So heart disease, type 2 diabetes, all of that involves chronic inflammation, and we've talked about that probably ad nauseum for you all, because you hear me talk about inflammation all the time. So everybody has the latest and greatest cure for all the health woes that there are. Most people, there's a good meme where people are standing in line for surgery and medications at one window, and nobody's standing in line for lifestyle modification and dietary intervention or changes in diets and supplements and nutrients and vitamins, etc. It's actually cheaper to do it that way, and none of these are, very rarely are they covered by insurance. However, injectable, not medication, injectable supplements, amino acids, vitamins, and all that, you can usually get reimbursed from your insurance company. So I'm not going to say they'll pay back everything that you spend on some of these supplements, but a lot of times they will if they're coded correctly, and I know how to do that. Okay, so everybody's trying to lose weight, right? They want to get rid of wrinkles as they age. They want to get a good memory so you don't forget what you're doing. I did it yesterday, but mine I think is more ADHD. I forget what I'm doing while I'm doing it. So I will walk into a room with an idea in my head to do something, and I'll get distracted and do something else and then forget what I was originally in the room for. So wouldn't it be nice if there was a magic thing that you could take to improve all those areas of health? Well, actually, without side effects, right? Well, actually, glutathione may be one of those. It's not really wishful thinking. Most of the supplements I talk about really do make a difference. And people that inject them feel amazing. So when I talked about the Hercules shot and the super skinny shot, people that have done, I've used those for years, and people that actually take the time and get past the needle stick thing, it really does revolutionize the way they feel, especially in their energy. And like I told you, the most common even when I was practicing, the most common thing I heard or treated was fatigue, or that classic, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay, so we're going to talk about a natural but indispensable molecule. It's in every cell in your body. And the idea is to figure out how to maximize the amount that's in the cells in your body so you can protect yourself. It's one of the most protective molecules in the body. And if you don't have enough glutathione, that puts you at risk for stroke, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. We're going to go through all this. But when you have an adequate glutathione level, or if it's even in the high normal range, you get the magic. Okay, so you get protection from these conditions we're going to talk about. And then you get, like I said in that picture an hour ago, you get amazing energy. Your skin glows. It actually lightens skin. It's used as a whitener for skin. We'll talk about that. You get a healthy total body detoxification since it's involved, or it's present in every cell in your body. You get a strong heart, you get a strong brain function, and you might even live longer, right? So, like Dr. Popa says, sound too good to be true. Well, most people I found will listen to me on a video, and I could put this up as an article and have you read it. It's kind of long, and there's some science in it, so most people wouldn't read it, just like I have more people that watch videos and read what I write. So reading, we're just in a culture where video seems to be the way that people learn. So watching and hearing. And that's, my students are that way. When I teach human anatomy and I teach human physiology, I don't think a lot of them read the book. They rely on what I tell them. They don't take notes. I keep telling them to do that. So glutathione is tripeptide. So it's 3 amino acids, and it's made up of cysteine, glycine, and glutamate, or glutamic acid. It is known as the master antioxidant. It boosts the utilization and recycling of other antioxidants, and of course the famous one, you've heard me talk about it, is vitamin C. But behind vitamin C, what makes vitamin C work, lurking in your cells, is glutathione. We also talk about coenzyme Q10 and vitamin E as antioxidants, alpha lipoic acid as antioxidant, but behind all of them, the master, kind of like the pituitary gland of antioxidants, is glutathione. I could show you the chemical symbol. It's just 3 little amino acids put together. There's 2 forms. There's a reduced form, and that's the active one. It's known as L-glutathione. And then there's the oxidized form, which is inactive. So once glutathione patrols and picks up an oxygen-free radical, we'll talk about that, and you've heard me talk about it, it becomes oxidized and inactive. However, you do have an enzyme that can reverse that once you get rid of, and this is the detoxification process, once your body eliminates those free radicals. Glutathione reductase is the enzyme that turns it back into the active form, which is a reduced glutathione. So reduction means it can accept an electron. Okay, and once it accepts an electron, it becomes oxidized and it's carrying it. So it cannot accept any more electrons, free radicals. Okay, so you can recycle it, but you have to have enough. If you're using so much of it that you don't have enough of the active form, it can't keep up with the inflammation. Okay, so glutathione protects the mitochondria of a cell. So every cell has mitochondria except red blood cells. I've talked to you about the mitochondria of the cell that produces the power that we need for energy production and reactions that require energy. And the energy substrate, or the thing that actually causes the energy reactions to occur, is adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. So Dr. Popa calls mitochondria the power plant of the cell, okay? And he compares it to the heart. So mitochondria is constantly making and pumping out ATP, just like your heart is constantly pumping out blood, okay? So if you don't, and he says, if you don't have a heartbeat, or if you don't have mitochondria, then you're not alive. Life ceases to exist is his thing. So mitochondria do more than just pump out energy. They have their own DNA. So it's not all the DNA in your body's in your nucleus. Mitochondria have DNA. It comes from your mother. Okay? They can communicate with the rest of the cell. They can sense danger when the cell energy drops. And they're even involved with telling a cell that it's time to die. And that's called programmed cell death or apoptosis. The more apoptosis, the more you age. So it accelerates as you get older. And that is because the cell becomes so damaged it can't be repaired. Okay? And it needs to go away. So Dr. Popa calls the mitochondria the heart and soul of the body. It's an important cellular organelle. Okay? But you have to protect it, right? And the protector is glutathione. Dr. Popa calls it the knight in shining armor for mitochondria. So, what does it do? It makes sure that toxins like heavy metals, organic toxins, even byproducts of making energy, which produces free radicals or can, oxidative stress, and glutathione protects the mitochondria from damage from those byproducts. Okay? So it's there to extinguish, neutralize superoxides and other oxidative stress molecules and eliminate them so you can get rid of them in your body. You can recycle, like we talked about, okay? The role in the body, I'm not going to give you a big list. I'm going to go because it would be too much jargon, biochemistry and medicine and all that. So we're just going to go through the detail of what glutathione is involved in and what it's responsible for in your body. So, aging defense, number one. It doesn't mean that's the most important. But people in their 80s that live into their 80s, 90s, and 100s, Olivia de Havilland just turned 104. I want to know what her glutathione level is. Are found to have higher levels of glutathione. So if you have a lower level, it sends messages to trigger apoptosis as you age. So that's programmed cell death. Okay? The more glutathione in your body, the healthier cells and your mitochondria. The less glutathione, the more likely you are to have cell breakdown, higher disease risk, and cellular death or aging. Okay, antioxidants. So it's known as the master antioxidant amino acid or tripeptide. And this doctor likens this, and I love this metaphor, I guess. If you've ever made fruit salad and it browns, I guess avocado the same way, it browns. That's oxidative stress, right? So how do chefs do it? Well, they sprinkle a little lemon or lime juice on their fruit salad or their avocado, their guacamole they made to keep it from turning brown. So antioxidants he likens to that lemon juice, the thing that chefs do. So if you constantly sprinkle your body with antioxidants, you can prevent your body from browning or aging. So they're the anti-agers of nutrition. So you can eat all of these. And when I tell you later down in this talk, when I tell you what you should eat, it's basically what your mother and your grandmother say. And if you're on a standard American diet, which is known as SAD, then you're not doing this. And most people actually won't. But they'll take a supplement and they'll take a shot and they'll take a patch and a cream. Okay? So there's a way to do it. So the antioxidants, all of them, vitamin C, E, CoQ10, and glutathione, protect your body from oxidative damage. So every time you eat or breathe, and anytime you move or you use fuel created from your body or from the food you eat, just like a car using gas to produce energy releases harmful byproducts known as exhaust, right? So too does your body also produce a dangerous byproduct, and that's known as free radicals. So the other term for that is reactive oxygen species. And we talked about that when we talked about the mechanism of action of COVID-19 on the lung. So you've got an immune system response. You have this huge amount of oxidative stress that's produced. Okay, so they're reactive. They have a free electron. So instead of O2, it's called superoxide. O, it's got a negative charge. I always tell patients and clients, if you have too much superoxide, which most of us do, it's like it's superoxide's running around your body, shocking you all the time. It's got a charge on it. Okay, you can't feel it, so you don't feel little tingles and shocks and all that. But you get about 10,000 hits of superoxide on every cell in your body every day, trying to damage your DNA. And so antioxidants are important, whether you eat them, inject them, inhale them, mix them in water or milk, take a cream, take a patch, take an IV. They're there to counteract the damage caused by free radicals. So glutathione is the master antioxidant, directly binds to free radicals. And that's how it becomes oxidized. So remember, the oxidized form of glutathione is now inactive. It cannot accept another superoxide free radical. And then hopefully you get enough enzyme and enough substrate around the 3 amino acids that can remake the reduced form. So you get rid of that oxidized form and convert it back to L-glutathione, which is a reduced form. Okay? All right, what about detoxification? We talk about that. I hear doctors say all the time, oh, you can't detoxify your body. Well, that's goofy because your body detoxifies itself. Now, I'm not saying you can necessarily take a whole bunch of stuff and detoxify yourself, but you can certainly give your body the tools and the nutrients and the vitamins and the amino acids and the peptides that it needs to detoxify itself. That's what your liver does, okay? So the analogy for this physician is, and I'll just read it to you. All across America, people have one day designated as trash removal day. Okay, so they collect their garbage, their waste, their recycling, and put them in bins and place it on the curb for pickup and removal. Everybody does that, right? Hopefully. Your body does the same exact thing, and it's called the detoxification system. Okay, so detox is taking out the trash, and you do make trash in your body. Just living, you're gonna create trash that needs to be detoxed. Okay, there's 3 phases. Phase 1, toxins from, let's say, smoking, alcohol, caffeine, pharmaceutical medications, radiation, heavy metals, pesticides, car exhaust, other carcinogens are partially processed inside the mitochondria, your little motor, your engine, called cytochromes. However, phase 1 can turn partially processed toxins into even more dangerous free radicals. So those damage you. They can single-handedly deplete your glutathione levels, and that creates an imbalance between phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification activity. Okay, so you got further work to do with your body. So various enzymes during phase 2 degrade the toxins that have been processed in phase 1, like heavy metals, the organotoxins like the pesticides. They bind them with protective compounds and then inactivate the toxin. It's called conjugation. Glutathione is like the chief, the general that helps do that. I could talk about the chemistry behind that. I'm not going to do it. It'll get confusing if I haven't already confused you with what we're talking about. So there are other phase 2 enzymes. So enzymes catalyze reactions, make them faster, and make them occur. And proteins that perform similar functions, but behind, again, like vitamin C and E and CoQ10 and all that, behind the scene is glutathione that's directing all that function. Okay, that completes phase 2. If you have an imbalance of reduced and oxidative, so active and inactive glutathione, then you're not detoxifying at an efficient pace. And that's the buildup of the toxins and the buildups of heavy metals and superoxides and free radicals. Once they're conjugated and they're processed through phase 2, phase 3 is eliminating them from your body. And that's usually through the kidneys in the form of urine, and then through the liver in the form of bile. So that's phase 3. All right, what about energy production? I told you it's an amazing energy thing. Okay, energy production is located in all cells except red blood cells, which carry oxygen, inside mitochondria, and red blood cells don't have that. They don't have a nucleus either. So glutathione is involved in protecting the mitochondria, as we talked about, to produce more ATP. And with less ATP, the rest of the cell becomes sluggish. So the whole cell just slows down. All the processes that keep you healthy and alive get slow. And if you get enough damage, the mitochondria directs the cell to commit suicide, basically, apoptosis. Okay, if you damage your mitochondria, they become error prone and they start to create even more free radicals or exhaust from energy production, like your car. And then in turn, those free radicals then cause further mitochondrial damage, and you have a vicious cycle that has to be broken. Okay, stress will do that. Higher energy needs, higher metabolism, exercise, stress, etc., is going to cause that imbalance. So we'll talk about exercise-related glutathiones here in a bit, but the harder the mitochondria have to work, and then there's more free radicals produced. So again, glutathione binds those, not just on the mitochondria, but in the rest of the cell. Okay? If the process is overwhelmed or it doesn't work correctly, then the oxidized form, the inactive form of glutathione accumulates, and that ratio gets out of balance. And remember how many times I've said it's all about balance. Health is all about balance. Okay? So you can measure a ratio, and it actually tells you the amount of oxidative stress and how well you're aging just doing this ratio. So you can measure a ratio of active glutathione to inactive glutathione. It should be greater than 100. Okay? If you have a reduction in active glutathione, that ratio usually drops to 10. And then your cells are at risk for oxidative stress. What does that do? How do you feel? Well, you got fatigue. I talk about fatigue all the time. You can't focus your mind. You get brain fog. Your muscles get tired. You get aches. You get pains. You get chronic inflammation. You get chronic illness. And then you're on the vicious cycle of pharmaceutical meds and slowly heading toward whatever your date of death destiny is. Okay, so that should sound familiar to people. Probably most people, especially the people that say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay? So those symptoms are associated with most disease processes. If you think about people who have chronic illness, they have those symptoms. The art of medicine is to take those really vague symptoms and try to figure out what it is that's going on that you can put a diagnosis to and then write a pharmaceutical medication for. But what if you just stayed ahead of the game? Right? So if you inhibit mitochondrial dysfunction, okay, you should theoretically be more energetic and healthier. So autoimmune conditions, chronic inflammation, let's say multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, that's an inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, Lyme disease, heavy metal loads, organotoxins, all cause mitochondrial dysfunction. Low levels of glutathione, and you get profound fatigue. If you restore that, some, maybe not all, of the energy depletion reverses. And so let's get into depletion. So depletion and disease, sorry, my nose is itching, makes you vulnerable to oxidative stress when you have chronic disease. And behind a lot of the chronic illnesses is glutathione. I'm not going to say deficiency, but imbalance. Some people are just deficient, okay? So oxidative stress and inflammation, markers of accelerated aging, chronic illness. You cannot fight off damage to your cells if you have too little glutathione. You feel more tired, and it's like your mitochondria are getting rusted. Okay? And that triggers your immune system to clean up the damage. And your immune system can be an acute inflammatory response, which you need. So when I talk about inflammation, I'm not saying it's all yucky and bad. I mean, if you have a pathogen that's trying to invade you, you want your immune system to become active. What causes problems is when it's chronically active and chronically causing inflammatory change. So, depleted levels of glutathione, lots of adverse health conditions, heart disease, diabetes, etc. And then you can deplete glutathione levels just by natural aging, but then you have environmental causes. Okay, so we're still talking about depletion and disease. So chronic exposure to chemicals, cadmium exposure, too much alcohol use, smoking, pollution, the standard American diet, SAD, stress, Tylenol can do it, ultraviolet radiation exposure, sun, and then other illnesses that continue to deplete glutathione, including HIV, macular degeneration, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, hepatitis, cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, Alzheimer's disease, liver disease, sickle cell anemia, stroke, heart disease. Even infertility has been implicated in lower glutathione levels. Okay, so big list of stuff, right? Okay, so what does it do for your brain? What about your brain? Okay, so we get a little forgetful as we get older. That's called neurodegeneration. So you do degenerate, your brain gets smaller. Some of the brain cells become damaged. Some of them they may die. You don't function at full capacity. It's unavoidable as we get older, but it can be slowed and it can even be reversed. And glutathione is the reversal agent and the slowing agent. Okay. So certain brain disorders with accelerated neurodegeneration that gives us clues. So Parkinson's and Alzheimer's diseases have high levels of superoxide radicals, reactive oxygen species, which damage your brain, and they have correspondingly low active glutathione levels. Okay, so glutathione, if you supplement, can ease and decrease the rate of damage to neural tissue. Other neurologic illnesses like Lyme disease, so people with Lyme disease have brain issues. That's a spirochetal disease, and people with Lyme disease sometimes will tell you they can feel those in their head, in their brain. So improving glutathione levels has been shown to decrease the inflammatory response from Lyme disease. It's not going to cure the spirochetes. That's a whole other topic. Okay, so that's the brain thing. Hopefully you don't have any of that and you just keep your brain healthy by getting enough glutathione. What about your heart? Okay, number one cause of death in the United States is heart disease. Most people think it's heart attack. Congestive heart failure gets thrown in there, but it's one of the top fears of most Americans. We've talked about heart disease ad nauseum, and there's things that you can do that reduce your chance of getting a heart attack, and then having, if you live, suffering the damage and the way you feel after a heart attack. So what's missing in the national campaigns regarding heart health and early detection risk factors is glutathione levels. What's its role in preventing heart attack and stroke? Because it neutralizes oxidation of lipids. And then we did a whole 3 or 4 part series on statins and cholesterol levels and LDL, the little taxis, the bad taxi and the good taxi, HDL. But most of what causes heart disease is that plaque buildup of inflammatory lipids. So you get an accumulation of that, the little deposits in the arterial walls. So plaque of the coronary arteries is called hardening of the arteries, or atherosclerosis. It usually develops gradually. It seems to be from oxidation of the cholesterol carried by the LDL, low density lipoprotein taxi, which damages the lining of the blood vessels. So oxidative stress is what starts the cracks that make the arterial walls sticky. Otherwise, if you didn't have cracks and stickiness and stress, cholesterol would just shoot right through your arteries, wouldn't matter what your level was. But if you get a plaque buildup and it ruptures and breaks off, that's called, and blood clots form, that's thrombosis, that's a myocardial infarction or a heart attack. There is an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase, which inactivates the oxygen species, the hydrogen peroxide species, the lipid peroxide species, and the nitrites that cause lipid oxidation. And that way, glutathione seems to prevent damage and lowers the risk of heart attacks. Just a simple tripeptide. Okay. Study in Germany, 643 cardiac patients that underwent a coronary angiogram or a cardiac cath, you guys probably know it as. Those who died of heart attacks had much lower levels of glutathione peroxidase, that enzyme, than those who survived. So if you don't have enough glutathione to neutralize damage to the arteries, you have a higher risk of heart attack and vascular disease. Okay, here we go with inflammation. So part of the antioxidant stuff. Okay, for probably 10 years, functional medicine and natural health people have been talking about reducing chronic inflammation. Most people still don't get, and that's why you get that chronic inflammation leads to disease, and then you wind up on the pharmaceutical med carousel. Okay, it's virtually present in every chronic illness. Diabetes, heart disease, cancer is an inflammatory process. It's also a new growth process and a take over what organ it's going. But inflammation is also necessary to fight things like infections. So I'm saying that you have an acute and a chronic inflammation. The acute one is the one that you want if you get COVID, coronavirus in your body or whatever else that, cold, the coronavirus, common cold, or the flu and all that, you need that inflammatory response. If you have an injury, you want your inflammatory response. So trauma, infection, toxins, allergies, your immune system is going to answer to that, or to that. So when you get an acute injury or an infection, the blood vessels and the capillaries dilate in the injured area, opens wide to allow the body's natural healing compounds to get to the injured site as quickly as possible. But then you get the fluid and waste from breaking that down, and then the area gets flooded. That's why the fill up of the lungs with COVID-19 and the cytokine storm and the interleukin-6 and natural killer cells that go after that virus. So to offset that, the helper cells, T helper cells, seal off that damaged area, okay? And then the blockage of those blood vessels and lymph vessels is what causes the inflammation, the redness, the pain, the stiffness. You can't move as well, and swelling. So there's a built-in system of checks and balances for that, involving cyclooxygenase 2, and that's called COX-2, and that sets the inflammation process in motion by signaling the production of 2 prostaglandins. That's a chemical name, prostaglandins. Those are pro-inflammatory hormones. That's not progesterone. That's a not inflammatory hormone. Prostaglandin is an inflammatory hormone, and that's helping your body try to heal the injured area. You've heard of COX-2 inhibitor. The most common, the one you've heard of is Celebrex. That's how it works. So Celebrex blocks, I said it right, Celebrex blocks that enzyme from producing 2 prostaglandins so that your pain and swelling go down, okay? But there is another enzyme called COX-1, and here's the imbalance. COX-1 produces prostaglandins, which are anti-inflammatory. That's series 1 and series 3. Series 2 prostaglandins are pro-inflammatory. So this is like a yin and yang. So in a real, in an ideal world, the yin and yang is balanced. Okay, the inflammatory response comes to your rescue if it's needed, cools itself off once healing is completed. But we do not live in an ideal world. We live in a real world. So toxins, stress, your diet, other lifestyle issues disable that balance of that system. And then your body makes more pro-inflammatory prostaglandins and less anti-inflammatory ones. And then you get chronic total body-wide inflammation. And then when this happens, you're in trouble. You need more protection, or you're going to get one of those yucky disease and illnesses that we keep talking about. Okay, so how about your immunity? And glutathione is how you do it. I mean, everything I'm talking about, if you improve, get adequate or high normal levels of glutathione, that's the little master antioxidant that's behind protecting your body from inflammatory stress. Okay, immunity. Glutathione helps the immune system stay strong and ready to fight infections. So again, vitamin C, you've all heard about, but behind the scene is glutathione that probably is more important than vitamin C overall. Okay, so glutathione primes the white blood cells, natural killers, and T cells, the frontline infection fighters. Okay, helps produce more infection-fighting substances like interleukins. We talked about that, interleukin 6 against the coronavirus. And then interferons also involved in immunity. I know I'm getting a little bit medically terminology. There's kind of no way to say a natural killer cell or a T lymphocyte without saying it. Okay, so lots of chronic infections can help deregulate and suppress the immune system, and glutathione can turn that suppression around. So Epstein-Barr virus, which used to be associated with chronic fatigue syndrome. Chronic fatigue syndrome really now is fibromyalgia. Then hepatitis, herpes viruses, Lyme. So people with Lyme infections, chronic infections, their immune system's deregulated. Okay, what about athletes and athletic performance? Well, glutathione, if you take it before an athletic performance or your workout, it appears that it can boost your workout and your athletic performance if you use glutathione ahead of time. And you can get that. You don't have to be bench pressing 350 pounds and running a Boston Marathon. And, even just typical things you do around the house, weekend warrior type people, this is a secret weapon to help you be more productive and have your performance of doing those chores that you do be better at it. Okay, so and then really, when you're, we've talked about nitric oxide. So when you're working out, you want your endothelial cells in your muscle to make the nitric oxide to dilate the vessels to get more blood flow. So there was a study done where glutathione combined with L-citrulline boosted nitric oxide better than just placebo or citrulline alone. Okay, so glutathione is involved in better production of nitric oxide. Okay, autism. Glutathione's been used in autism. That's a kind of it's an on the rise thing in the U.S. Key priority of parents with children is improving their function. And there's studies that show, I'm looking at it, glutathione has been very beneficial in treating autistic children, just like when we talk about oxytocin. Okay, so oxytocin is the hormone we did a whole class on. Now we're doing a whole class on glutathione. There's two simple things that parents of children that have autism can do to help improve their performance. Peripheral vascular disease involved, so that has to do with nitric oxide and providing more blood supply to muscles. And so typically if you have peripheral vascular disease, you get fatigue and pain when you're walking. Okay, so people that have that calf pain, that they have to stop walking usually have peripheral vascular disease. So there's a study where they gave IV infusions of glutathione where patients that had that were able to walk further without pain. than people are getting placebo injections. So there's one of those double-blinded, randomized, placebo-controlled things. IV infusions, there are a few clinics. I thought about doing one in St. Louis. There's one at the Lake of the Ozarks that I need to go see what they do, but they do IV infusions for all kinds of energy things. I think they do Myers cocktails. We might do a whole Myers cocktails class. And then, people at the lake that just go nuts and they're hungover, they can go in Monday morning and get like a hangover IV infusion of vitamins, and they go skipping out the door feeling great. So IV clinics, they're not mainstream. They're gaining in popularity, but they're invasive, and you have to have a nurse and an IV pole in an office and sterile things and all that. But that's probably the best way to get nutrients is IV. I use multivitamin 12 or MVI 12 for women that have hyperemesis gravidarum. So that's, intractable nausea and vomiting early in pregnancy. And if I gave them an IV infusion of multivitamin 12, that all went away. They felt great. Okay. All right. What about skin? I'm going to show you a picture later. I'll just put this up on the comments of what glutathione does for skin. Okay. So people are kind of fascinated when it comes to their skin. It's the largest organ in your body. They worry about acne, wrinkles, dryness, eczema, puffy eyes. Everybody wants beautiful, flawless skin. Well, the best way to have beautiful, flawless skin is eat right, take your supplements and stay out of the sun, or use an SPF factor 50 or higher. But then you lose your vitamin D. So that's a vicious circle too. But sun, wind, housework, outdoor activities take a toll on skin. Your skin gets dry, it's wrinkled, you get age spots. They're not liver spots. I think the medical term is seborrheic keratosis. That you can treat those with lasers, but you can also treat it with glutathione, really. So, and then if you have poor nutrition and you're stressed out and anxious, no exercise, and then hormone imbalance, you knew I was going to get the hormone imbalance that occur at midlife, and then as you get older, moisturizers, creams, anti-aging serums, billions and billions of dollars are spent on that just to improve skin. However, what if you could just take something and solve the problem internally and have your cells heal and regenerate themselves? And that's the power of glutathione on the skin. It decreases melanin, or the pigmentation that occurs, also decreases the appearance of wrinkles, and it increases the elasticity of skin. And if you want to know the elasticity of skin, this is the classic way of doing it. You hold up your skin and see how fast it returns normal. So if you have less elasticity, that little thing stays there for a while. Mine's a little slow. It's not perfect. So glutathione works on skin pigment by inhibiting an enzyme called tyrosinase, which is involved in the process of making melanin, or pigmentation. So you get a skin lightening effect. Seems to be gradual. It takes a few weeks. And then if you quit taking it, the skin whitening effect goes away. So you have to stay on glutathione if you want the whitening areas, and those are the whitening effect. And those are used in spas. There's some glutathione treatments, I think topical treatments for lightening or whitening skin. Glutathione also reduces psoriasis if you bolster the glutathione up to the high normal level. Okay, and one way to do that is whey protein. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But it improves, and not only just not lighten skin, it improves that elasticity. So that's a hallmark of aging skin, is loss of elasticity. Okay, what about type 2 diabetes? 100 million people have insulin resistance or insulin issues in the U.S. About 30 million have type 2 diabetes. We're not talking about type 1. That's genetic, and that's a slow, damaging problem. High levels of blood sugar destroys everything. Your blood vessels, your eyes, your kidneys. The leading cause of blindness in the U.S. Kidneys, nerves, oxidative stress, free radicals, blah blah. Okay. Glutathione is vacuuming those up. If you get it into the high normal level, It's going to vacuum up and combine and get rid of those free radicals. Okay, so most type 2 diabetics, if they do a glutathione level, are going to be in that ratio of less than 10 or low levels of active glutathione due to high oxidative stress. That is the hallmark of diabetes, is chronic inflammation, and that's from sugar, glucose. So if you give glutathione precursors, cysteine and glycine, you can just take that by mouth. Their levels of glutathione goes up. That's from a study I'm looking at as well. And we'll talk about the various forms. I keep saying we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it, but this is a huge topic. So I'm trying to go as fast as I can without not completely confusing everybody. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, the third leading cause of death in the U.S. So smoking, pollution, secondhand smoke, damages respiratory tract in the lungs, O2 and carbon dioxide exchange, suffers, it becomes difficult to breathe or get enough air. Also associated by studies on low glutathione levels, and that causes abnormalities in the lining of the lungs, leading to that inflammation from free radical damage. Okay, normal levels may protect from that inflammation. And so studies in animals, intravenous glutathione showed improved lung function, preventing damage, improved lung compliance, and improves lung tissue. So it kind of blocks that decrease in lung tissue that COPD people get. Also associated with vitamin D. So we talk about the active form of vitamin D. Vitamin D has been hot for 10 years. I'm starting to see clients now that their doctors have routinely checked the vitamin D level on them once a year, and then they put them on it because 95% of us are low in vitamin D. The problem is they put them on 1,000 international units, and that doesn't really do anything. It's not enough. But, vitamin D is more than just bones and calcium metabolism. It modulates the immune system. And I told you, if your vitamin D level is less than 30, 4 years ago, a study came out and said if your vitamin D and showed that if your vitamin D level is less than 30, you had a higher risk of death from all causes. So, also low vitamin D, depression, depressed mood, higher risk of heart attack, higher asthmatic symptoms, diabetes, high blood pressure, multiple sclerosis, decreased brain function, and even an increased risk of cancer just from a vitamin D that's low. Okay, so vitamin D levels correlated with glutathione, and when glutathione levels are low, vitamin D3 does not work as well as it should. So even though you're taking vitamin D and you get your level up, it's still not working as good if your glutathione levels are low. Okay. All right. What about methylation? We spent a whole class on MTHFR genetics and methylation last week. So people that have that mutation don't methylate anything, and specifically they don't make L-methylfolate, which is the brain food vitamin. So methylation is critical for survival. It's like an electrical switch. It turns genes on and off, and it's integral to how we function every second of the day. So it regulates neurotransmitters in the nervous system, brain function, moods, energies, hormone levels. There's the hormone balance again. So methylation is really the same thing as physical function. If you don't methylate well, you don't function well. And one of the products of methylation, homocysteine, can be measured. Higher levels of homocysteine if you are under oxidative stress, because your homocysteine is involved in production of the amino acids for glutathione. That's been linked to heart disease as well. So higher homocysteine levels, one of the labs that I do for an inflammatory panel. Okay, so glutathione starts with production of cysteine, okay, and the usual source of cysteine is homocysteine, which is produced by the methylation cycle. So making glutathione depends on well-functioning methylation cycle that produces enough homocysteine. However, if the production of glutathione is not functioning properly, the process backs up, homocysteine levels accumulate, You get additional strain on the methylation cycle to remove that. And they're problematic because of the heart disease association with heart disease and atherosclerosis. Okay, there's some other chemical stuff that goes on through there. It's a little bit biochemistry-ish. I can show you the methionine homocysteine cycle. You would just skip over it, but it's a chemistry thing. All right, so how do you get glutathione? So that's the information on it. Okay, how do you get it? All right, glutathione-rich diet. And I'm just going to give you some things that you can do. So we talked about whey protein. All right, so it's a sulfuric tripeptide. So you need proteins rich in amino acids like cysteine, glutamate, and glycine. So whey protein that you drink, you put it in skim milk or water if you want. Pretty good way to ingest it. Allium-containing foods. It's a genus of plants that have a lot of sulfur, which is required for glutathione synthesis. Garlic, onion, chives, scallions, shallots, leeks, all good sources of sulfur. Cruciferous foods, here we talk about what your mom and your grandma said, eat your vegetables. Also sulfuric cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, which I totally hate, and I get it. Brussels sprouts, got to be made right, bok choy, arugula, collard greens, watercress, radishes, all sulfur-rich cruciferous vegetables. And then foods that are rich in alpha-lipoic acid increase glutathione. Organ meats, now I'm not going to eat kidneys and brains, but if you do that, then you're getting glutathione. Beef, brewer's yeast, broccoli, spinach, Brussels sprouts, peas, tomatoes. Okay, and then selenium, it's a trace mineral. We talked about that, 2-3 months ago. A building block of antioxidant enzymes. Also key in producing glutathione from those 3 amino acids. You get selenium from seafood, oysters, Brazil nuts, eggs, mushrooms, whole grains, organ meats. There's the kidneys again, liver, dairy products. And then you can supplement it. So that we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on supplementation. I wanted to teach you why you should look at it. Okay, the worst way, and you've heard me say this, the worst way to deliver something to your body is to put it in your mouth and swallow it, because it's going to go through your liver. Now, I'm one of those people that thinks if you want to get good levels of something, you give a shot. So when I used to tease that and I want labs, and I used to tease patients, I said, I'm going to install a phlebotomy needle when you come through the front door, and when you get through to the back office part, I'm going to give you a shot of something. So I'm a shot guy, and I'm a draw blood guy, and we check labs and figure out what you need, and then we usually inject it. But not everybody likes injections, I get it. So there's a lot of glutathione supplements on the market. If you swallow them, your digestive system will break them down into those 3 amino acids. So an oral supplement of just glutathione will do nothing. It's destroyed, not destroyed, it's broken down. That's a bad way to say it. Cleaves it into those 3 amino acids, so you really don't get any of glutathione into your circulation where you need it, and you need it inside your cells, right? Better form, if you're looking for oral supplementation, is liposomal glutathione on an empty stomach. So you got to do it just like thyroid hormone. Empty stomach, and you don't eat or drink anything else or take any other supplement for 45 minutes to an hour. So first thing in the morning, if you're doing liposomal glutathione and thyroid, you get hormone, you get 2 hours that you can't do anything else. Okay, so you just get up, take a glass of water, take your liposomal glutathione. So that's kind of a pain, right? You can do it as an inhaled form. That requires a prescription. It has to be compounded by a pharmacy, and almost everything I talk to you as far as injections is compounded. I've used the same pharmacy because they're good for about 6 years. There's also transdermal creams and IV use. And Dr. Popo mentions nothing about intramuscular use because he's an IV guy. So, if you find an IV clinic, they can give you glutathione IV, vitamin C IV. You can take vitamin D shots instead of having to take a supplement all the time. And and I don't know if she's on here or not, but a friend of mine, Christy Farrell Shires, she usually streams these on her page as well. She works with LifeWave. They have a glutathione patch. It's a phototherapy patch. If you're interested in it, look her up. It's Christy Farrell, Farrell. Sorry if I spelled it wrong. Shires, Schires. I've known her for several years. That's one way of doing it, and she can explain the phototherapy part of it. There's no drugs, there's no sticking, there's no greasy creams, there's no needles like I do, and then there's intramuscular. If you're interested in intramuscular, my compounding pharmacist has it. Shoot me a DM or put something in the comments, and I'll get back to you, or send me an email, brianjtracy@gmail.com, BRYANJTREACYMD@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it. And I'll send you something you can read if you'll read it. So that's it on glutathione. Let me look through these comments. You can take, so Linda asked, can you take that with all the other vitamins as well? Well, yeah. It's a natural supplement. It's something your body recognizes. What your body doesn't recognize is goofy pharmaceutical meds that are synthetic and they're not in nature. So I think that's the hard part of doing medications and weird stuff. So Christy did say, I've got a glute patch for that. So it's a patch that goes on your hind end. Easy. So if you don't like needles, now like I said, I'm a shot guy. She's a patch woman. And she popped in there, and so you know, on the comments, you can click on her name and go straight to her LifeWave, or figure out how she does it. I think she's got a LifeWave business Facebook, and then she has her personal, but on her personal, it leads you to that. So that's an interesting phototherapy patch, and the science behind that, there's science behind it. I don't understand it that well, and she's trying to explain it to me. But she has patched me for pain, and their pain patches work in like 5 minutes. It's amazing. No drugs, you're not taking anything weird, no shots, no opiates, no addiction, you don't get addicted to LifeWave patches. So give her a shout if that interests you. Give me a shout if you want me to give you a shot or provide you with a shot. And I will talk to you Monday. I'm headed to the lake for the weekend. Stay safe. Peace and health to all of you. And keep, like my friend Wynn says, keep your foot on the gas. No matter what happens, keep your foot on the gas. I'll talk to you Monday. See ya. Bye-bye.